heavy rain pelted against the window of Alec's beat-up car as he squinted against the gloom that was being feebly illuminated by the aged headlights. Muttering curses, he gripped the steering wheel and fumed at the fact that his boss had forced him to work late hours, causing him to have to drive home in the rain at night. He hated driving in the rain. It only made the challenging drive along the narrow mountain road even more treacherous. But he'd done it before, and he'd do it again. Suddenly, Alec saw something that brought his car to a screeching stop on the slick road. There was a little girl, unusually pale and highlighted by the high beams of the car, standing on the side of the road, just outside the car lane. Overcoming his shock, he wheeled his car gently forward, rolling down his window to talk to the child. "Hey, you gave me quite a shock. What are you doing out here in the middle of nowhere, all by yourself?" Alec asked, trying to sound more cheery and good-natured than he felt. "Waiting," the girl replied, her voice low and for an unidentifiable reason, slightly creepy. "Waiting? For what?" Alec asked, confused. "The bus," she replied simply, as Alec leaned out of the window and turned his gaze upward to realize that there was in fact a weather-beaten bus stop sign just a few feet from the girl. It was almost illegible due to rust and the paint peeling. "I don't think the bus runs here anymore. Do you live far from here? I could give you a ride," Alec suggested. The girl nodded and wordlessly opened the door and climbed into the passenger seat. Alec started the car. They drove in silence for a few miles when suddenly the girl broke the uncomfortable quiet. "We are not far from where I live now." Alec looked around. "Are you sure? There aren't any road signs or landmarks or stuff." He trailed off. "I'm sure," she replied. A few minutes later, after more silence, the girl spoke again. "My stop is just ahead," she said quietly. "If you say so," Alec muttered, uncertain as to whether or not they were going the right way. Suddenly, a bend in the road leading to the right came into view in the distance. "Turn left. My stop is to the left," said the girl. Alec looked at her strangely. "Kid, I don't think you know your directions," Alec said, eyeing the girl. "That turn goes to the right." "I know that. Turn left," the girl said, a slightly angry tone creeping into her voice. Alec turned his head fully towards her. "I'm not turning left, sorry, but you can't possibly live down there. It's nothing but a ravine," Alec snapped. The girl snapped her head around to face Alec. Her face contorted in anger, and her previously icy blue eyes were now a haunted purple. "I said, turn left," she screamed. Suddenly, the steering wheel was wrenched out of Alec's hand, sending the car careening through the guard tail and over the edge of the cliff. As Alec lay dying in the mangled wreckage, he saw a second car at the bottom of the ravine. The bodies of a young girl and her parents were inside. Sarah was walking home as fast as she could. She had a biology test tomorrow and she didn't want to fail. As she walked faster and faster, her long blonde hair flipped in the wind. She was coming up to her street when she saw a beautiful old record player. She went over to it and started to check it out. It was a shiny red color with light brown timber edges. There was a record with it. On the cover of the record was a picture of a pretty little girl. Next to the girl was "Do Not Play" scratched into the black background. The record player was light enough for her to carry, so she decided to take it home with her. Her parents were out for the next couple of days, so as soon as Sarah got home, she went straight to her room and started to figure out how to work the record player. After an hour about getting home, Sarah found out how to turn the record player on. As soon as she turned it on, a beautiful old-style music started playing. Sarah completely forgot about her biology test and started dancing along. In the middle of the dancing, the record player stopped. There was a high-pitched screaming sound and then a pause. The pause went on for 5 seconds and then there was another screaming sound and the music started again. Being a bit scared, Sarah turned the record player off and went to her work. At 10 that night, the record player turned on. Sarah awoke from her lovely dream and listened. The music was so beautiful. It made her head sway to the rhythm. The music stopped. There was a screaming sound, then a pause. Sarah's head stopped swaying. She was as stiff as a rock. "Peekaboo, I see you. I am in your town." Instead of the lovely music, there was a little girl singing. Her voice was so delicate, but her words were terrifying. There was another scream and the record player turned off. The next night, the same thing happened. There was a scream, the pause, the singing. But the singing was different. The little girl sang, "Peekaboo, I see you. I am in your street." There was another scream, then nothing. Sarah was terrified of what just happened. She hid under the covers and refused to make any noise. The very next night, the record player turned on. A scream, a pause, and a little girl singing delicate but trying terrifying words. "Peekaboo, I see you. I am in your house." She nearly had a heart attack. Sarah froze on the spot and didn't move at all. Just when Sarah started to fall asleep, she heard footsteps coming up to her room. A minute later, the footsteps reached her door. There was a long pause, then a creaking sound. She moved her head slowly out from the covers and saw the door opening. Her face was bathed in light. There was a small black figure in the hallway. Sarah didn't know what was happening. Her head was spinning so fast. There were a couple of footsteps and then the face of a little girl appeared. She started to sing, "Peekaboo, I see you." As she sung, she raised her hands above her head. The glint of a knife shone in the darkness. "Peekaboo, you see me. Goodbye, Sarah." When her parents got home, they went to check in on Sarah. When they walked in, they were horrified. There was Sarah laying on the bed, dead, holding the cover of the record. Sarah's throat had been slit and there was blood all over her dressing gown. The record player was playing "Peekaboo" over and over and over again. When the terrified parents looked at the cover of the record, the picture of the little girl moved. The little girl screamed. She shouldn't have played it. They dropped the cover of the record in shock. Sarah's parents backed out of the room slowly, not being able to look away from their daughter's body. As they moved further away, they could hear a little girl singing, "Peekaboo, I see you," slowly faded as the last of Sarah's spirit vanished into the record cover. A week later, a young couple were walking down the street when they came across the beautiful red record player sitting on the curb. The young woman insisted they take it. The couple took the record player to their small apartment. Little did they know, as they were walking, the little girl on the record was giggling as Sarah was screaming for them to stop.